Marvel's What If Episode 2 isn't just bad, it is offensively awful. I couldn't believe what they'd done with this. There are times in this actual episode where I didn't know whether to laugh or just be in stunned silence at what they just said. This was incredible. It wasn't just like the first one, where you kind of expect Hollywood at this point to have a Mary Sue that can do anything. There's like, as long as the woman isn't attractive, she's probably good at what she does. That's what we've learned from Hollywood. But in this, we found out that if you have a different level of melanin than somebody else, you actually are superior to everybody else in the universe. All of the old characters, all of the old heroes, they were terrible. They were awful. They had no idea what they were doing. Why? Because they weren't born in Wakanda. That seems to be the message of the entire thing. Honestly, there are ways you could do this series that could be incredible. Different choices, different possibilities. As they say, it's infinite what you can do with this. And instead, all we're getting is swapping one person out with another one. Wow, how diverse. Like, honestly, if that's going to be your decision, then what we're going to get next week, we're just going to see what happens to Captain Strange if he just has a different vitamin C level. So from this point on, there's going to be spoilers. Why? Because there is literally no way you can physically describe how awful this show is by just telling you what they do. So strap in and strap on, because honestly, I have seen nothing like this. Now, at its core, the whole what-if concept requires a lot of intelligence. You have to identify a key, tiny decision, and then extrapolate that out into the future. But this is Marvel, and so you're not going to get that, and we get this tripe instead. It starts with Yondu, and he's trying to get Peter Quill so they can take him back to his father, who's a god. Now, if I was working for a god, I would make sure that I really didn't mess that up, but apparently Yondu just doesn't care, because he sends out his minions, who between them have the combined intelligence of my arse. And so, as you'd expect, they pick up someone from Wakanda for literally no reason whatsoever. In fact, the only attempt they make as an explanation is that Wakanda somehow has the energy reading of a god. I don't know either. Then they take the kid back to Yondu. Yondu immediately realizes they've got the wrong guy. Why? Because one has melanin and the other one doesn't. It's pretty obvious, even Yondu knows. What does Yondu decide when he realizes that he's got the wrong person and not the one the god does? He talks about taking him to the stars. I mean, he doesn't mention Quill. He doesn't bring up finding him. Apparently he just leaves him and goes away. It's like, oh, well, we've only got enough fuel for one trip down to Earth. There's definitely no way we could get a second one. No, you would immediately go back and capture the right guy. But, as we all know, Peter Quill is run by Chris Pratt, someone who Hollywood despises. And so instead, what they do in this is they leave him to a life of mopping floors. Apparently, they try and insinuate that he actually hasn't achieved anything. He's a complete failure. And the only reason I can see to do this is to literally humiliate Chris Pratt. There seems to be no other story. There's no reason for it. And they actually have to be intellectually deficient to run the story this way. This could only have been done out of spite. So desperate to insult Chris that they actually made Yondu also look like a complete prat, that the moment someone brings him a wrong character, completely forgets why he's there. Yeah, of course I'll take the vengeance of an evil god, as long as I get to insult the guy I don't like. Okay, so you can see that the story really starts off him as it means to go on, and we move on to just the rest of his life, which is told to us rather than explained to us. Now, I could normally just accept that this was a very short cartoon, and so there just wasn't enough time to explain his entire life. I get that. Except in my notes, I clearly have written down 13 minutes in and nothing has happened yet, so I think we have time. But instead, what they do is they just tell us about all the great deeds he's done, all the amazing deeds that are just superior to everyone else in the universe. And this includes stopping Thanos. Not making that up. No, instead of fighting Thanos, instead of doing everything else, instead of needing all of the Avengers and the combined might of everyone involved only to lose, he stops Thanos just by talking to him. Yes, apparently... I can't believe I'm saying this. Apparently, he just spoke to Thanos and told him that actually wiping out the half-universe isn't the most efficient way of doing things. No, instead you've got to talk about different distributive systems, different ways of distributing the resources of the universe, so it's fair for everybody. Now, you'll have to forgive me, but this is Hollywood, so I don't think he was probably trying to insinuate that he talked to him about capitalism. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a normal pleb, not a writer for Marvel. So if you thought that Haley Atwell was a Mary Sue as Captain Carter, you have seen nothing yet. This is a guy who, just by existing, just by his mere presence in the world, people just look at him and they have to bow down. They have to do exactly what he said. This is a guy who can stop Thanos by debating him about resources, and Thanos completely changes. He's no longer a warrior, he's no longer conserved or anything. No, now he's just a nice guy, and this leads to Nebula having blonde hair for some reason. I don't know why. Now, Thanos even actually says, I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong, and the only thing I have written about it in my notes is what the fucking shit, right? So I think that really explains to everyone my immediate reaction to that, and that is where, oh no. Oh, what have you done? But don't worry, it gets worse. So now they're just a group traveling around the universe helping people, and their plan is to basically terraform the universe. That way they can feed the universe. They even call themselves Robin Hood. And let's face it, if I was an alien from the other side of the universe, I would definitely refer to situations by small British legends. But they find out that the Collector has the key to terraforming the universe. And even though they're incredibly scared of this, they also decide to do it for some reason. Let's face it, we've got a guy from Wakanda here. That means it's possible for him to do anything. But they come up with a plan and enter the vault. And as they're entering the vault, there's a guard who's about to stop them. And he's going to scan the box, which has Starlord in it. And what is their plan to get past this guard? Well, it's to actually start a fight in seemingly an entirely different area where Thanos literally just throws a guy in the air. And for some reason, instead of the guards stopping this, they say they need every single guard in the entire place to help. I mean, literally, it is a fight between two people, one of which is just getting battered. It's not that big of a deal, but no, we need every single guard. And of course, the guard for the vault, the most secure place on the entire planet, leaves immediately and starts running off. Oh my god, what are we going to do? I mean, we've left the door open to the vault and there's all these people here, but I don't need to guard that. It's not like it's got anything valuable in it, right? Now, as he's going through the vault, he meets a talking duck. No, honestly, he meets a talking duck. I don't know. There is literally nothing about this entire thing that makes sense. I don't know if this was meant to be funny or what, but it meets a talking duck and he goes through. And he's going through the vault, meeting all these different people. And the duck decides he's going to stay at the bar because, of course, there's a bar in a vault which serves the people that were meant to be arrested in the vault and kept in cages, but now he just starts giving them drinks. Now, after the duck has engaged with the beverages, he finds a Wakandan spaceship. And because, of course, this is a vault, the biggest collection of items in all of human history. All of any history. But obviously, we're going to find the Wakandan spaceship. That's just going to happen. We're just going to stumble across it. That makes a lot of sense. But at this point, the guard has gone up to the fight at the stop and realized that these are the same group of people fighting as down below. And so they set off the alarm, and now this means that T'Challa gets captured. Or at least you'd think so. Because it turns out that Nebula has been working with the Collector all along. And actually, this is a double cross. Nebula had a date with the Collector, and this was all a setup just to get T'Challa captured by the Collector. Now you have to remember at this point, they've had so many times to capture him. Absolutely loads. They could have stopped him in the guard post. They could have stopped him before. But instead, for some reason, they let the plan go through. They let him wander through all of the vault. And only when the alarm was triggered, only when actually another guard realized what had gone on, only then did the Collector decide, actually, we probably should have stopped him. Literally, if you know in advance, the entire point is you just let them think their plan is working and then ambush them. But in this, you actually let their plan work. It is completely and utterly insane. And also, when he met the duck was obviously in one of these cages just to keep him there. And you want to know how he got him out? Well, he shot a laser pistol at the lock on it. The high-tech lock in the middle of a vault. A vault. And there is literally not a single alarm, not any detection methods. No one cares if pistols just get fired off in the middle of the most important vault in the universe. No, we're not going to detect anything of that. This is literally one of the least secure, most secure vaults in the entire... I don't think you could come up with a worse set of defense systems. None of this makes sense. There isn't a single moment in this entire thing that makes sense. So now Starlord is in trouble. He's actually locked up in a cage. And he actually says, oh, in my planet, it's deemed to be terrible to put people in cages because absolutely no one, literally no one knows what that refers to. God, Hollywood is so transparent nowadays. And this is a guy from Wakanda, an ethno-state, so honestly, dude, I'm not sure just how much you should actually be preaching at other people. And nor does the Collector, because he comes out with probably the only good line of the entire episode. And he goes, this guy does have a superpower. He can bore someone to death using only his sanctimony. And that's absolutely true, because literally, in my notes just above this, I've just written, confused and bored. This guy definitely has the superpower of boring people into submission. But that doesn't change anything because this is a guy from Wakanda and that means he can do anything just by existing. His mere presence charms the birds from the trees. And so how does he escape from this? Well, of course, his one phrase changed the course of history. And this woman who has literally worked for the Collector basically her entire life, as far as I can tell, this is a woman that has seen millions upon millions of people locked away in cages. She's never cared before. She's never bothered before. Instead, she's helped the Collector. Well, now she's changed her entire mind because Wakanda has appeared. Starlord has appeared, and now he has said that it is wrong. And she just believes him and decides to betray the Collector. She's going to betray the most powerful man in the universe that she has literally helped do everything he has done for her lifetime. Of course she does. Yep. Just by this guy existing, he can change the course of history. But don't worry, because Nebula is actually doing a triple cross. Yeah, I mean, actually, she told T'Challa all about what she was going to do. She told him about her debt and that she was going to use him to betray him. And that was all part of the plan. And so she helps them escape. Yeah, I mean, she clearly knew that the Collector was going to let him go through the plan and not immediately kill them. And when she found out they actually betrayed them, yeah, he was just going to put them in a prison cell rather than just shoot them in the face, which would be the expected method, because let's face it, none of them are anything special. This is literally just some random guy from Wakanda. No one cares about him. I don't even know why he's left alive. I know in this story, he can talk the birds from the trees, literally talking Thanos into not wiping out half of the entire population of the universe. But at the end of the day, all he is just some random dude. So as the rest of the group escapes with Nebula, what we have is Starlord fighting the Collector, and he's losing. The Collector's showing off all of his new weapons. He's even got Captain America's shield there somehow. But then you have the rather amazing moment where, from the Thor movie, the Collector puts on the headdress of Hela, and it turns out that is what gave her powers all along. Now, I've not watched that movie in a while, but I'm pretty sure none of that made sense. But what comes next makes it even worse. You see, although he starts to get absolutely battered by the Collector, who is a fine specimen of a Chad, turns out that actually Yondu has stayed behind and he's using his little whistly pen thing to knock off the hat of Hela. And then it hits the ground and just smashes into a million pieces. Oh my... Like, seriously, if only Thor had known this, then maybe he could have saved his entire planet from destruction. If only he'd known that the only thing it required was for him to take off her hat and drop it on the floor. If only we knew it was that fragile, the entire course of the Avengers could have been changed. We could have saved so many lives. But no, apparently, none of us were that smart, because none of us came from Wakanda, so we just didn't have the knowledge. Quite possibly, if this is what gives them the power of Hela, one of the most powerful items in the universe, it's just so fragile that it can't handle a piece of concrete. I mean, my phone can. My phone is actually more powerful than that hat. It's stronger than that hat. If only they'd coated it in Gorilla Glass, this all could have been different, but apparently, no. But after the headdress is destroyed and the Collector is put in a cage, instead of actually doing anything about it or just leaving him there, no, the keys to the cage is handed over to the woman that betrayed him before, because apparently cages are wrong. I mean, we've just put this guy in a cage, even though we admit it's wrong, but now we're just going to hand over the keys and let this woman decide, and he's going to get what he deserves. Because, of course, it's completely wrong to put someone in a cage, but if you utterly decimate them once they're in there, that is morally fine. Whoever wrote this, I don't know what your moral compass is, but it seems to be spinning in circles. It's a very, very odd decision of morality you've taken in this one, I've got to say. But she actually unleashes everyone else from the cage. They surround the cage, and then she opens it up, and in probably one of the most on-the-nose comments that I have ever heard, the collector literally just goes, "Oh, karma." I mean, karma is literally when you realize that you've got your just desserts. Like, you've got what you deserve. But there is no way on earth that the collector believes that. There's no way the collector believes what he's done is wrong. When he's done it for this long to this many people, that guy thinks what he's doing is correct. He thinks that he's doing good, or at least something that he doesn't feel bad about. This guy does not believe that he needs karma for this, nor would he have realized that it was some kind of karmatic force just because he was in a cage for about 5 seconds. He's not going to change his entire moral outlook and just regret everything he's done in life because of 5 seconds in a cage. That's not how any of this works. And then after this, they just escape and Thanos survives and sacrifices himself because it's absolutely something Thanos would do just because a guy had told him about how the problem was capitalism and we need another redistributive system. Thanks, Hollywood. The writing was awful. The characters were awful. The characterization was awful. And of course, the whole animation style and everything else has all of the problems of the last episode. Of course, Thanos was savable. You didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to kill him at the end of it. None of that was required. You were just idiots. You were morons. Instead of just talking to him, if only you'd talk to him, because he seemed like such a reasonable person. This is a guy who can clearly admit when he's wrong. He even says so. I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong. I mean, before, I wanted to literally wipe out half of the life on Earth, but, you know, I'm a big man. I can admit that that was probably just a bit too far. I don't know how this story got pitched past people. I don't know how this went through a meeting and people thought this was good. I don't know how anyone read this script and decided to go along with it. If I read this script, the first thing I would have done is say, you're never going to write a script in this town again. But for this to go through something as big as Disney, a company as big as Disney, this had to get signed off by so many different levels just to get made. It's actually astonishing that combined between them, they didn't have an ounce of talent. That not a single person raised any problems with this or thought maybe we should at least rewrite this because this has so many plot holes in it. It's so embarrassing. It's so destructive to our lore that we actually can't put this out. But we're past that now. We're past any kind of quality control at Marvel at all. If this is the future of Marvel, if this is what passes for quality entertainment at Disney, then, it is no wonder that you are crashing at the box office. If there is any sign that Marvel is dead, that Disney cannot produce anything of quality in any way, shape, or form, it has to be this. The lack of talent required to manufacture something like this is astronomical. It's genuinely impressive how awful this story is, how bad this was written. And so I don't know how long this video's in. I don't know how much of a rant it's turned into. I'll only see that in the edit. But by God, no matter how bad I think this episode is, believe me, it's worse. I don't think it's actually physically possible for me to put into words how awful this episode is. But this has been my triumph. Now that's it from me. If you like the video, press like and subscribe for more videos in the future. And if you've seen it, let me know what you think below. And if you're not going to watch it, then you're probably the most sane person that we've got. But now that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.